Hey there, powerful soul. Welcome to this impromptu conversation that we are about to have about visibility blocks. If you are an ambitious, high-performing feminine leader who knows that visibility is a part of your responsibility as a public figure, as a public leader, or the leader behind leaders, the person who is leading a mission, leading a company, leading an organization, leading a team, leading something in the world that requires you to have visibility, you're going to want to be a part of this conversation. So take a pause with me because we're going to drop in and say a prayer really quickly because these internet streets been hating on me. When I try to go live, they delete my videos. So I'm going to pause and say a prayer real quick over this internet street that they do not delete my videos. Hey there, Julia. How are you, my dear? I'm going to pray that they keep my video up this time because they've been hating on me and deleting my stuff lately. So let me just pause for a moment. God, I thank you for this time. I thank you for this moment. I trust that the message that you have given me to share will land with the women that this resonates with their soul and their spirit. May those who are meant to hear this. May those who are meant to find this. And I ask, God, that there will be grace over my platforms, over my name. Every platform that my name is on, God, I ask that you will cover it, that you will protect it, that you will anoint it, that whatever is causing these deletions and the censoring of my voice, I ask that you will remove it right now and open the way for this message to be heard. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. All right. I believe that when you are inquiring about visibility blocks, that is just the surface. That is just the tip of the iceberg of the inquiry that you can be asking. There's actually a deeper inquiry that you can ask regarding visibility. And when it comes to visibility, it's not just about the physical being seen. When you are being visible, there is a multidimensional experience that you as the leader, as the speaker, as the facilitator, that you are having and experiencing. This is on an energetic level. This is on a spiritual level. This is on an emotional level. This is on a mental level. This is on an identity level. So this is not just surface level. Let me say the right thing. Let me position myself in the right way. Let me market and brand myself in a certain way. Those are tactics and strategies that work when you are in alignment with it. However, my dear, when there is something lying dormant beneath the surface, there are deeper layers that need to unfold and need to be explored. We have to examine that before we go into strategy. Now, I believe there are two aspects of visibility that ambitious, high-performing feminine leaders are not discerning accurately and correctly of knowing which season they are in, how they are showing up or not showing up. And I'm going to share what those two are so that you can discern within yourself which boat you're in. That way you know how to approach this visibility challenge that you may be experiencing in a more empowering way. One moment. The tea I'm drinking is called Ancient Ancestor. It is a rare cha from Yunnan province in China. Gung Fu Cha is a practice that I have as part of my cultivation. And I also offer inside of my work in my intimacy in-person containers. And this is almost a decade old. And so it's a really rare brew and it's very special. So, two aspects to discern what season you're in of navigating visibility. You're either hiding or you are being hidden. And there is a difference. I see so many women, brilliant women, intelligent women, mislabeling, misidentifying the season that they're in, and thinking that they are hiding when they're being hidden, or thinking they're being hidden when they're hiding. And so we're going to have a conversation about that so that you can discern the difference. One moment, I want to make sure that I have my device on do not disturb so I do not have any interruptions here. We're gonna talk about the difference so that you can discern where you're at, and that way you can know what is the next best step that you can take. I will share a combination of a case study of a client that I've worked with, and I will share my own personal experience because I'm not someone that talks about visibility just from the context of these internet streets, okay? I've been on the front cover of a magazine. I've been on multiple media platforms. And so I'm speaking as an embodied leader. We're going to get to that here in a moment. So, hiding versus being hidden. What is the difference? How do you know if you're hiding? And how do you know that you're being hidden? And who's hiding you? What are you being hidden by? Before I go into that, if you know someone inside of your network or community that you feel would find this conversation valuable, I request and ask that you will share this with them. Sharing is caring, and that is how people can find me so that I'm not hidden. I'm asking to be shared. So thank you so much. So let's talk about hiding first. Hiding. Hiding is a form of self-protection. Many like to use these pop culture terms such as self-sabotage. Self-protection, in my humble opinion, is a more dignified way to describe the complexity of what is happening on an unconscious somatic level when it comes to what people call self-sabotage. It's a form of self-protection. And there are nuances to this, where there is a version of you that likely does not feel safe to be seen. And there are a series of events as to why they don't feel safe to be seen. And there are a series of patterns that this version of you will engage with to protect itself from what it perceives as potential harm or danger or threat, because the brilliance and the sophistication and the intelligence of our brains and our bodies were designed to keep us safe, to survive. And because of that wiring, there is something about the way that we navigate our modern life experiences where it could signal danger, threat, unsafety in our brain, in our nervous system, that can activate this part of ourselves, this version of ourselves, to go into self-protective coping strategies. This is a shame-based, fear-based strategy. Now, this is the perfect time of the year to have this conversation. Why? Because inside of my work, I bring a holistic approach. And this is the winter yin season. Yin in Eastern philosophy is the feminine. This is the time of the year where fear and shame and shock and depression is the acquired shadow of the collective and individual experiences. So this is the perfect time to look at, am I hiding? And if I'm hiding, what is the shame, fear-based, unconscious beliefs driving this version of myself to go into self-protective coping strategies to try to keep me safe? These strategies look different for everyone. And some it may look like hesitation, where you hesitate to say the real truth or your real opinion or your real thoughts, or bring forward a new idea, or bring forward innovation, or bring forward something that could shift cultures, shift your lineage, shift bloodlines, shift a relational dynamic. This could be a private conversation. And so hiding is not even just about on a public scale. Sometimes you're hiding inside of your private life through the conversations you're not having, by hesitating, using your voice, not speaking the real vulnerable truth that is alive within you, because deep down inside, vulnerability feels scary. Vulnerability feels intense. And what tends to keep ambitious feminine leaders hiding is avoiding the intensity of exposure. The somatic, felt sensations that show up inside of your body when the intensity of exposure is alive. Meaning, somebody disagrees with you, somebody critiques you, someone attacks you, someone projects onto you, someone rejects you, someone dismisses you, someone misunderstands you, someone doesn't choose you. And the intensity that could happen in your body. For some, they isolate. Because that was a coping strategy that they learned way back, when their brilliant, sophisticated minds decided that it was safer to just not be in the way. It was safer to hide. It was safer to not be seen, and not just physically seen, emotionally seen. And this can be the result of a physical immobilization. As I mentioned, this is the time of the year where fear, shock, depression, shame, the shadows of that and all the coping strategies that come along with that are very much alive in this winter yin season. And what happens when people feel fear and shock or depression or shame? They feel stuck. They feel immobilized, because that is the freeze response in our nervous system's intelligent strategy, again, for safety and survival. And so I believe it's important to have an intelligent conversation around this, because I see a lot of shame-based conversations being had online where people are being shamed for hiding. People are being shamed for not using their voice. People are being shamed for not having private conversations with people that maybe their body doesn't feel safe with. And to demystify all of that, we get to have an intelligent conversation around why that is so. And there are some physical representations of these experiences that I have both observed inside of my client work over the years, and I've experienced myself. First, I want to share client work. I have literally witnessed women lose their voice before they're about to go on stage, days before a major event, and they can't talk because their body shut down because of this hiding mechanism that's happening, this version of themselves that doesn't feel safe to be seen, and the physical ways that the body starts to shut down. I have witnessed clients start an argument with their beloved the night before a launch, an event, and it completely alters their chi. Chi in Chinese is energy, their energy. And now they're not feeling on their A game. that inspiration, that vitality, that aliveness, that magnetism that lures people in and causes people to lean in, wanting to hear what you have to say, has been dimmed. That is a power leak. These unconscious self-protective mechanisms that these parts of ourselves have learned to hide, to cloak, to veil, not just to not be seen, but to feel safe in being seen. To feel safe in being heard. To feel safe in being expressed. To feel safe in being witnessed in your shine, in your brilliance, in your power, in your magnetism. Now, there is another aspect of this visibility block phenomenon. And it's when you're being hidden. And when you're being hidden, this is a spiritual aspect of visibility that I rarely see people talk about, because most tend to just talk about self-sabotage and you're hiding, or you're not playing full out, or you're playing small, and they use simplified ways of meaning for complex challenges that are very real. As I mentioned, on an identity, energetic, emotional, spiritual, mental level. And that's why I believe it's important to have a nuanced conversation around this, because it's not always black or white. It's not always this or that. It's not always a linear explanation, which is why inside of my work, I do bespoke when I work with clients privately. I customize and I tailor the experience to them. I don't do cookie cutter coaching. I don't do 1 + 1 = 2, because you are a unique individual who has your own unique ancestral lineage, lived experience, aspirations, desires, and challenges. And so I approach you and I work with you accordingly. Now, when we look at when you're being hidden as a spiritual matter, this is where it is not self-protection, it is spiritual protection. And I've experienced this as well. And when we are experiencing spiritual protection, this is God's grace. Oh my gosh, this lights me up talking about God's grace. This is a supernatural matter. This is a mystical matter. This is where the hands of the Almighty I am that I am is over us and our lives and our circumstances. And there's not a person, place, or thing that can move the hand of God, as much as they try, as much as they attempt to. And when you are being spiritually protected, this is a spirit-led process where you enter what I call God's transformational cocoon. And this is a season. A season. Hear me out here. A season. Because in this Western world, for some of you who are connected with me, you may live in other parts of the world, but a lot of people that are connected to me live in the Western world. And this Western world lives in a distorted paradigm. Because when we look at nature, especially right now in this winter yin season, we can see that this is a season of restoration. What's happening right now? The land is quiet. It's still. In some parts of the country and the world, it's snowing. And when that snow melts, it nourishes the earth. And when the earth is nourished, it is preparing the soil for springtime when you plant those seeds. There's restoration happening. There's rest happening. That is what this winter yin season is about. Rest, restoration, nourishment, recalibration, refreshing, and receiving divine supernatural guidance and wisdom. This winter yin season is about wisdom, spiritual willpower, not egoic force, and I'm going to make it happen, but spiritual guidance and willpower, meaning you are being led and guided by a power greater than yourself. And this is what I find many high-performing, ambitious feminine leaders sometimes struggle with, is this season, because of the culture that we're in and the paradigm you've been conditioned to operate under. That you are to operate under a 24/7 masculinized paradigm. When you have a feminine body, you are a cyclical being. We live in a seasonal earth. Why would we not live accordingly? So for some of you, you're not hiding, you're being hidden. God is calling you to a season of restoration. Where are you resisting that? Where are you resisting rest? And feeling guilt, feeling shame, or feeling afraid that it's all going to fall apart and the floor is going to fall from beneath you and nothing's going to get done if you don't take a pause for the cause and rest and restore and refresh and replenish, because that is what this season is all about. And there's something beautiful that happens in this season, in the refreshing, in the restoration, in the renewal. We start to emerge just as the springtime, where you see the blossoming, the flowering, the opening, the expansion. What makes you think you're not to experience the same, my dear? When you're in the season, this is a season where you're not isolating. This is a season where you're honoring the season with solitude. There's more stillness. There's more quietness. There's more listening. There's less speaking, less talking. Shh. Turning your gaze internal. Even more. And noticing what doesn't belong in the season that's upon me. What must I release? What must I let go of before I enter this new season? Before I begin this new chapter? Before the blooming and the flowering occurs? And when we are navigating that season, it is a very delicate process that tends to go over much more smoothly when you have spiritual prophetic guidance, which is part of the work I bring to my clients. Because if you are not allowing yourself to receive support for yourself, not just for your business, not just for the work that you do, for the woman behind it all, you can miss out on a beautiful opportunity where this season can become the catalyst for your visibility expansion. And with high visibility comes being highly paid. And hello, isn't that what we all want? Why are we, some of us here on these platforms? I believe those of you who are connected to me, you're here for a reason. You're not just here scrolling and consuming on the internet, collecting more information. You're here for a reason. You're here for an intentional reason. So I want to share about navigating visibility. I've navigated both seasons of hiding and being hidden. I have had a lot of exposure throughout my life. The very first time I recall being visible was as a little girl, being on stages for a spelling bee, winning, being on stages for performances, for church and for school. Eventually, I was a first chair clarinet musician and was on stages performing in musical events. I was a very high performing track athlete and eventually went on to be a Division I track and field collegiate athlete, and have performed in big stadiums when I used to run in the National Junior Olympic track meets. And so I got used to having some eyeballs on me. I was becoming so competitive and competing at such a high level that I would be on the news and I would be on the front page of the newspaper when that was a thing at the time, and had articles and featured articles written about me. And then later, when I decided that I was going to say yes to my calling and my mission, I started public speaking. I've been on stages in front of hundreds of people as a keynote speaker. I've had featured media opportunities where I've been on the front cover of a magazine with featured articles for work I was doing inside of the community and the state I lived in at the time. I've been on NPR. I've been on multiple podcasts. I have had a lot of exposure. I've been on a commercial for a major publicly traded company. I know what it feels like in my body on a visceral, somatic, sensational level to have eyeballs on you. I used to be petrified before I went on stage. And I would have such crippling anxiety, I would practically be shaking. I couldn't even eat before I would go speak because I would feel nauseous. And I had to learn different ways to approach those experiences with a new level of sophistication because of the visibility I was starting to experience. And there was something that started to shift for me when I went from what I call real world visibility to these internet streets. It was brutal. It was vicious. The vitriol that I have experienced being online, where I've been projected onto, people projecting their shadows, their traumas, their wounding, their insecurities, their jealousy, their envy, their covetousness at me, being attacked, where people had the audacity to send me emails and private messages and tell me that my message wasn't godly enough and wanted me to tell them which verse in the Bible was my message coming from. Because this modern Western culture has stripped the wisdom of the feminine. And they think that if it hasn't been written by a man in a book, then it's not truth. That is a lie. That is a distortion. That is false. Because when you have Ruach, Holy Spirit, the feminine aspect of Creator in you, and you open your mouth, truth comes out. I even was targeted by opportunists who saw my visibility who saw my connections, who saw the opportunities I was receiving, and used very savvy ways to enter my world, either through containers or trying to be in my network, to try to gain access to my presence, my energy, my gifts, my community, my network. I have experienced things that I would not wish on anyone. And admittedly, there was a version of me that said, fuck this shit. We don't have to put up with this. And went into hiding. Started pulling back. And then something beautiful happened in that. A sacred shift. Where I got the support I really needed. You know, there's a lot of people online that market and sell things that they have never walked through. That they have never lived. That they have never embodied. That they have never had to transcend and transverse. And there was a time where I fell prey to good messaging and marketing. And I bought that instead of the medicine my soul needed. And I found myself in spaces and masterminds with women who were coveting and envying the visibility I had. I was sharing stories with them and challenges I was having, and they could not relate to the level of pressure that I was experiencing, where in my hometown, I couldn't even go to the grocery store without people stopping me. And I was not even famous. But that's what they wanted. They wanted to be famous. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to do what God called me to do and be at peace with it. I just wanted to show up in the world and lead in the mission and the calling God gave me and be at peace with it. I just wanted to lead the women that God called me to lead and be at peace with it. And so I was finding myself in spaces and in containers with people that were coveting the visibility I had with not understanding the weight of it. And they couldn't hold me in it. And I started to feel myself collapsing under the pressure because I couldn't find the support I needed. I was going around in spaces thinking that they had sophisticated approaches and solutions to this very sophisticated, nuanced experience I was having. And they were saying the words, but I could feel the lack of embodiment, the lack of integrity. And I was so disappointed at what I was coming across until the sacred shift. And God started to bring the correct aligned support into my life. Who could hold me? Who could support me? And who could show me the way forward. I received what I was giving to everyone else in my work. And it was the biggest blessing and the biggest gift. Because my prayer was, God, I just want me. I was like, I do this for other people. Can someone come and do this for me? I need to be held right now. I need to be supported right now. I need prophetic guidance right now. And God sent that to me. And maybe for you, you've been praying for that. Here I be. And during this season, I discovered that God was expanding my capacity. And I was shedding and letting go what never belonged to me. And my vessel was being recalibrated to hold the new vision and mission, the bigger mission and vision God had given for me to lead in. And I discovered that that season of hiding was not in vain. And that when God shifted me into a season of being hidden, it was for a divine purpose. The wisdom that has been cultivated over those years. The work that I've done with women, where they went from losing their voices, fighting with their beloveds the night before, to speaking freely and attracting the masses into their work. Having a beautiful love life and leading with holy boldness, supernatural power, embodied power, and attracting the highest sales day that they ever had in their business. Some going from multi-6 to 7 figures in their company because of this work. And I started to experience some of the rise and the ascension that I was facilitating for my clients, where that holy boldness and that embodied power was starting to emanate through my presence as a leader. And I was invited into spaces and stages and rooms I didn't even pitch for. Last year, I was invited to be a part of an entrepreneur event in Omaha, Nebraska, in front of incredible entrepreneurs who are leading some multi-million, and I think there was 1 or 2 who are leading billion-dollar companies. And so totally calibrated me to a totally different timeline, totally different audience, totally different group and demographic of people. I didn't even pitch for that. I was invited to be on a panel inside of a space for women who are desiring to be multimillionaires. I did not pitch for that. And I'm not a multimillionaire yet. But she sees my embodiment. And she sees the work that I've done. And she sees the way that I've shown up. And I was invited. Spaces that people pitch for, spaces that people beg for, spaces that people are overperforming, overfunctioning, overdoing, coming on these internet streets and acting like a clown for, doing all of these cosplaying for more clients, opportunities, visibility. And here I am experiencing it just like my clients were without even pitching for it. And yesterday, I launched that new mission and vision. And we had our welcome call inside the Supernatural Woman Inner Circle with the powerful souls that I am so honored and proud to co-create new realities with. And so there's been a full circle moment for me in navigating visibility. As the client and the teacher. As the student and the guide. And I believe that what this world needs now more than ever is more embodied leaders. People who walk their talk. People who are who they are behind the scenes and on the platforms, whether if it's an online platform, an on-stage platform, in the boardroom platform, in the meeting platform, or a face-to-face conversation. The world craves realness. The world craves something that is not performative. And when you're performing, people can feel it. And when you're hiding, people can feel it. But when you're being hidden by the Almighty, that has people curious. And they'll start watching you. Can you hold that? Can you hold being watched? Can you hold being perceived? Can you hold being misunderstood? Can you hold the projections, the attacks? Can you hold being targeted by opportunists? Can you hold it? Because that is what this new era of embodied feminine leadership requires. You want to be highly visible and highly paid, my dear? You got to hold what comes with it. You got to hold it. I am she who has been holding it. I don't know anyone who has had the level of visibility that I have had and still standing and showing up and having a conversation like this with you with all of my heart, all of my soul, and saying, this is who I am, and owning it. I've hidden and I've been hidden. I've gone into self-protective mechanisms and I've navigated how to get out of it, and I support my clients to do the same. And I know what it's like to be spiritually protected and how to receive support to navigate that season with reverence and devotion. And I'm here to support you in that as well. And so the Recalibration Intensive, if you've been watching and you've been wondering, is an easy yes way to enter my world. It is a 90-minute customized experience designed to support you to recalibrate you on a somatic, nervous system, unconscious identity level, where we will examine and look at what is really true for you when it comes to your visibility and your leadership, and even your vulnerability in your love life and your private relationships. And through sophisticated approaches that are going to be customized and tailored to you, support you to transform that. So you are deepening the embodiment of your supernatural power, your innate God-given power, and stepping into your feminine leadership with this level of expansive power that is magnetic, where you're not just being seen, but you're being paid, where you're not just being visible, but you're being invited to opportunities that most people pitch for and wish for, and some even pay for. I didn't pay to be on the front cover of a magazine. Folks out here paying to be on the front cover of a magazine. You know how many, let me just pause for the cause and share this. I have turned down 3 opportunities to be on the cover of a front page magazine over the last 2-3 years. Because there comes a season where you get to start to choose where you want to be. And in this season, I've realized that I'm not in the business for paying to play in what I know God will anoint me with, when I just align my soul and my identity and my energy to the frequency of where I'm going. That is the work I do with my clients. So this 90-minute intensive will be customized for you, and it does come with intensive, post-intensive rather, integration support via text or voice message over on Telegram for 5 days afterwards. And it's a great time for integrating and allowing yourself to receive additional support to allow what we do in the 90-minute intensive to fully integrate, and going out into your leadership, into your relationships, fully embodied in your power, not hiding, and also honoring the season you're in, so that you are not just highly visible, highly paid, and you are showing up in your relationships feeling met, receiving the love that deep down you know you deserve, the intimacy, the connection, the togetherness. All of that is available and beyond. Simply reach out to me and I will share with you how you can schedule that. If you are interested in long-term support, a 3-month minimum commitment is required. It is a 5-figure investment for the high-performing feminine leader. If you are curious about the Supernatural Woman Inner Circle, that begins with a 6-month minimum commitment, and that is currently at a mid-4-figure level investment. And so simply reach out and I will share more information. Again, if you know someone who would find value in hearing this conversation, please share this with them. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for having this conversation with me. It was such a pleasure. And I am so looking forward to witnessing you and your evolution. Talk soon. Take care now.